The Book of Honey, by Isita Roshaz, Chapter 3, I Spy, Bad Suit Guy, May 21st, 2028, Honey, once a year, we make it back to London. This is my one chance to stretch my legs and be let off the hook. I'm given a budget, a spending card, and a deadline of 12 days. This is where I'm allowed to restock all my supplies. I have to budget for everything I need. Spending my time and money wisely. The first time I did this, I was terrified. Manfred showed me around a couple of the streets. Then left me on the corner and told me to go figure it the hell out. Luckily, it was only me I had to buy for back then. Manfred told me if I didn't come back, Victoria would send him after me on a hunt. If I made him chase me, I would regret it. 3 lessons came out of this experience. 1 was learning how to fool adults into thinking I knew what I was doing. 2, learning how to think on my feet. If I couldn't do it for myself, I didn't need it. 3, if you look like you belong somewhere, people don't question you. Learning to blend in like everyone around me. Pretending to be a regular person, helping myself by figuring out how things work without asking questions. I had a love for technology ever since Manfred gave me my first phone. When I broke it, he told me I was shit out of luck. I've swiped phones since I was 8. I learned how to take them apart and put them back together again. I got so good at it that I started building my own. This opened my eyes, seeing possibilities in the most broken things and places. Once I had a phone in my hand, it gave me the world. I learned about computers, coding, trig, and a few other useful things I picked up along the way. I started making the list of things months ago. I have over 30 people to buy for. The most beautiful thing about the Western world is everything can be bought in bulk and ahead of time online. I rented a storage locker in the area and bought everything online. Sometimes I even haggled over the phone to get the best prices. London was the place where we were treated the best. Our security here was much tighter. I was the only one allowed to go out and do chores with Manfred. If I miss my deadlines, spend frivolously, get caught stealing, or try to run here, I know I won't be the one she punishes. Once, I had everyone squared away in the place where we were staying. I had 12 days to do what I needed to do. I got dropped off at the London Eye. Then take a 30-minute walk, showing up at the storage unit at 3 a.m. All deliveries get the instructions to knock on unit 852. I receive my key at the gatehouse and wait for my deliveries to be made. By 4 p.m., the deliveries are done. Then the rest of the day is mine. I lock myself in the storage unit at night. Along with my resupplies, I've also been doing heavy research into Victoria and her enemies. I had a long list to choose from. Most are competitors in the same business as her. They all came with their own set of rules. I weighed this all in my mind for a long time. So, I turned to the other side of that coin, looking at what people on the legal side of things had. Most of my digging was useless, but one name hit me like a ton of bricks. I keep seeing it in articles and news reports about a man named Bruce Beck. I did as much research as I could about Bruce Beck. But the man verily had a digital footprint at all. The one thing I could find was his service records. He is technically still in the service of the U.S. Marines. There are no records of any kind of discharge at all. Something struck me as funny personally. He was from a place called Amarillo, Texas. There was something familiar about that small Texas town. No matter what I did, the bits and pieces of Bruce Beck are calling to me. I had to see where they would lead me. I slept on it. When I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, the last echoes of a dream were repeating themselves in my head. If I hadn't made up my mind, him showing up in my dreams gave me no doubt that I was going the right way. I spaced out my delivery days so I could seek and find, putting little pieces together no one is looking for, small things that most let slip through the cracks. The first 3 days were about finding and discovery. It's the most challenging thing I've ever done. I discovered Bruce Beck worked at a place called the National Audit Office, the not-so-secret home office of the British SIS. What a US intelligence agent was doing in London made me curious. The thought of discovering the answer was kind of making me excited. Information brokering was a hobby of mine. There was something I wanted to know. I found creative and clever ways without anyone noticing me. That was easier said than done. On the first day, I put on my stupid tourist outfit, walking around the building twice. Using my eyes, I make mental notes of as many entryways and outside cameras as I can. The third time I stopped to change clothes and shoes, giving myself as much height as I could feel safe by putting on platforms. I took pictures as a dark and moody schoolgirl, avoiding cameras and guards posted around the block. Once I had what I needed, I changed back to my blend-in mode, going back to my storage unit, picking up a few things at a hardware store. Using my cash, I stashed just in case. I pick up some things: paint, batteries, zip ties, and some tools and screws. Then I picked up a home security system with 5 cameras and a watching tablet. Painstakingly I spend several hours rigging and camouflaging the cameras to blend into the places I was going to leave them. The cameras had a 300-foot range. I took out their motion detectors and swivels, so the only way to turn them on was by using the tablet monitor, hoping no one would notice. I didn't need a bunch of secret-keeping fanatics to come swarming me. The next day after 4 p.m., I go back to the audit building. I start placing my cameras in different places. One at the front entry, one down both ends of the block, one across the street, and one down the underground entry I found that leads to Victoria Station out the back. 3 days in, I stashed myself in a construction site that was on the northwest end of the block. Across the street from the audit building, I found the dumpster they were throwing things into. It was the back of a dump truck. A yellow garbage tube leads up to different levels of the site. I climbed into the back of the truck, using the yellow rope from the hardware store. I tied it to the inside of the tube, so I could get up and down the building without anyone seeing me. Then from dawn till late in the morning, I began playing I Spy with crowds of people. I got Bruce Beck's photo from an old personnel file, carefully watching, taking notes about everyone and everything that came and went from that building. The front door camera was on all the time, so I used a solar charging battery to keep it on for 24 hours. When I've had it with the game, I go back to the storage unit to lock myself in for the night. Going over footage for 3 days, this is what I did. Wait for deliveries and rake through a sea of people, figuring out who belonged and who was just passing by. I had my doubts from the beginning. By the second day, I started questioning whether I was wasting my time. But then the third day happened. I was sitting at the construction site in a cold English rain underneath a trash bag I taped between two vent pipes to stay dry. Most of the morning on day 3, it was raining, then it just decided to stop. When I spotted a guy in a suit going into the audit building, in the last 3 days, I'd seen a couple of thousand people in suits coming out of that building. A few things about him stood out to me. I saw on my monitor him walking down the northwestern end of the block toward me. He came closer to where I was sitting. Passing by the construction site, I spotted him walking just under me. He had to be over 6 feet tall. Verily out of his teens by the look of him. His hair is dark, and his eyes are a very deep blue. There was something about the cut of his suit that made me want to set it on fire. It looked like he was about to bust out of it at any minute. That made him seem younger than he was. He was probably pretty cute, except he had a bunch of small circle bandages all over his face. Made me wonder who the hell he pissed off. I don't know why, I couldn't take my eyes off him. Wearing a creamy, pinkish-colored plaid suit. Something about the color of his suit made me want to vomit. This guy was flashy in a subtle way, aside from that color. Unlike most of the guys I'd seen sporting gold watches, diamond tie clips, and big flashy accessories. He seems almost dull. His watch, shoes, belt, and jacket he wore had tanned leather on the pockets and shoulders. If you didn't know any better, you would say these accessories were almost plain. I knew good quality leather when I saw it. It's like he was hiding in plain sight. There was a bit of a cock to his walk. Like he knew just how good he was looking. Just another swaggy, braggy, rich jerk. He walked in the door, and I figured I wouldn't see him again for some time. For 1 second, I stopped and guessed what he might be doing there. Maybe an interview, or to ask someone to marry him. This was something I did when I was bored out of my mind. I'd spot someone and try to guess what their lives were like. He surprised me by popping back out within a few minutes. What got me the most was walking next to him was the very man I was looking for. I almost didn't notice him, but after looking at his photo for hours, I thought this was him, Bruce Beck. He was older than in the pictures I had seen. He was thinning and grayer, but it was him. I was so shocked to see him I almost let the moment pass me by. Figuring out which end they were coming from, I crouched on the edge of the garbage tube. My heart was beating so fast as I was perched on the corner of this building site. There was Bruce Beck, a few feet away from me, on the street corner opposite me. About to cross over to the West Elizabeth Street. The only thought on my mind was that I couldn't let these two see me. Thanks to the tall, pretty boy wearing the ugly suit, I could see the two of them for miles when they were well away. I climbed down. Following them on foot was nerve-wracking. From what I could tell, Bruce was like a wolf. Every time he stopped, he was always looking around him. Like he was taking everything in. What was worse, the pretty boy would be following his every move, like a much larger puppy following his dog dad around. They crossed the street twice. Still heading west, walking almost 2 blocks down to a small corner restaurant called Pop Pop's Bap Shop. It was an old-looking brick building. There was seating both inside and out. The doorway was covered in roses. When I caught up, I joined the line to hear what they had to say. They were standing in line ordering their food. The woman behind the counter greeted them. "Well, hello, Bruce. I haven't seen you in ages. And if it isn't young William. What happened to you, sugar? You all right?" The pretty boy's name was William. When he answered her, his tone was polite and formal, with bits of charm thrown in. He stopped to touch his face before he said, "Doing just marvelous, Marie. Pissed off a vengeful woman. I thought that was funny." William's voice was flirty and smooth. "You remember, William, all women have a vengeful spirit. Bruce, you'd better give him a good talking to." Bruce laughs and complains. "Aw, Marie, I just want to spend my lunch enjoying every bite of your bacon butty and the only place that serves peach iced tea. In the whole of England, only you, Marie." Bruce's voice was gravelly and deep. His accent was thick. A pang in my heart hit me. There is something familiar about Bruce back when Marie says, "You are a shameless flirt, Bruce. What can I do for you?" Bacon butty, herb butter, sharp cheddar, and spicy ketchup. Hold the brown sauce, extra bacon and cheddar, and the biggest glass of peach iced tea. Please, Marie, if you could. She laughs at his fake begging. She turns to ask William for his order. "I'll have a spicy badger dog with baked beans, onions, mustard, ketchup, a bag of crisps, and icy cola." Bruce says, "We'll be sitting outside." She speaks. "Go ahead. I'll have someone bring this to the both of you." Both of them pass me to go outside. I was in no hurry, so I ordered myself a bacon butty and a peach iced tea. Then, I sat inside, waiting for my food and listening at a wall window right where they were sitting. There was some silence when out of nowhere, Bruce said, "She got you good, didn't she, William?" His response was annoying and just a bit less posh while he was talking to Bruce. "Yes, I will give her that she never lacked in creativity." Bruce says to William, "So, what happened?" William sighed loud enough for me to hear it on the other side of the wall. When he let out a dam of thoughts and feelings that he seemed to be holding in for a while. She was relentlessly trying to get in my face about my emotions and always pushing me to open up to her. Like I hadn't needed her when I did, but since the year mark on our relationship came up, she wanted to get closer to me. That was about me socializing with her friends. She never gave me any space. I don't know how that woman can do anything because she never eats. I had given up trying to compliment her months ago and I have been avoiding her a lot. Mostly using you as an excuse. I know she hates you." Bruce was just laughing at William. There is a pause when a shadow passes by, and the server brings them their food. They both thanked her at the same time. They both stop and take a bite of their food, making noises of absolute pleasure when William says to Bruce, "I have lost 12 kilograms in a year. That was the worst of it." When she insisted, I was supportive of her eating habits. Eating like a fucking rabbit or the most disgusting micro shakes. I smell those shakes in my nightmares, I swear. The conversation was mostly one complaint after another. What I found funny was this William guy. Earlier, he seemed like he was operating at a normal level, but when it was just him and Bruce, he seemed to be falling apart. There was a long pause when Bruce said, "Guess you just had to get that off your chest, huh, William?" William awkwardly says, I apologize, I did not mean to go on a rant. It's been very frustrating with her, the job and everything else. She's been vandalizing my stuff. When Bruce Beck speaks, there is a stricter tone of disappointment with a bit of anger thrown in there. Come on, William, it's your job to take care of things like that. There was a pause and a sigh. William's tone sounds defeated and self-destructive. It made me annoyed just listening. At the same time wondered if he was insane to let a woman talk him into starving himself on purpose. My skin crawls at the thought of letting someone have so much control over me. William, the bad suit-wearing guy, seemed like such a weak sheep to me. I bet myself I could scare him if I got the chance when William says to Bruce, "Yes, I know this time was different than before." Bruce asks, "How so?" I don't know why, but every time Bruce Beck talked out loud, I felt this pang of familiarity. It was making me nervous and on edge. I ask myself, who the hell are you, Bruce Beck? William tries to explain to Bruce so weakly. With her at the beginning, it was nice. Long conversations about interesting things. After a while, I realized that all of the things she liked about me were the things I was hiding behind to get me through the day. She wanted more and more gradually, and I began to panic. 7 months in, she started making plans and demanding things I had no interest in giving her. At that point, I was trying to distance myself. I know I hurt her, Beck. I didn't know how to get out of it before that happened. Do you think I'm unforgivable? That statement was so annoying to me. That whole part of life annoyed me. I distanced myself from those kinds of games and situations. Even inside the CEOs, drama unfolded between couples. Rusty and Jinx were always doing things that made no sense to me just to piss each other off and make up. Then Bruce's answer to him was slightly annoyed too. I almost laughed out loud at his language. Hell no, my little puppy. You're just young people figuring out how to stretch your legs like the rest of us. It hurt but was not unforgivable. Besides, I knew it was going to crash and burn from the get-go. William says a little sarcastically. Really? And you didn't say anything? Bruce's response to William's whining is almost blunt enough to leave a mark. When have you ever known me to catch your ass when you're about to take a trip you deserve, William? Fall on your face and keep going like the rest of us. That I thought was funny. Bruce's way of speaking was colorful. You could have warned me so I could catch myself. William, life is like a honeybee, sweet but ready to sting you when you least expected it. I didn't hear the rest of their conversation. Because the words he just said hit me. Out of nowhere, my mind went blank. For a second, I couldn't move or think. It was like the entire world was falling around me. My food finally came. All I could do was pack it up and leave. On my way out, I turned left so the two of them didn't see me. Then I walk into the flow of London streets.